of Trade as well as Agriculture is set to receive a report from the Ministry of Agriculture even as it continues to probe on matters contraband. But I'll keep you up to speed on that. In the meantime, the fate of the Court of Appeal in Mombasa is set to determine the fate of Changamwe Member of Parliament, Mr. Omar Mwinyi. And we have the judge there reading that ruling still. Let's just listen into what.
And thus this appeal also fails. On costs, the appellant was aggrieved by the trial court's award of costs to the respondents capped at 8 million. In its view, having unearthed the irregularities committed by the first and second respondents, and having proved some of the allegations raised in the petition, it was wrong to be condemned to pay costs. He submitted that the court should have exercised its discretionary power and ordered each party to pay their own costs, or that the cost should have been borne by the respondents, irrespective of the outcome of the said respondents, were more to blame in the unlawful manner that elections were conducted. The appellant asserts that further the trial court should have left the cost to be taxed by the taxing officer, since it did not have the capacity to determine the quantum of cost to be paid. The first and second respondents in response submit that the trial court properly upheld the provisions of Section 84 and Rule 30 petition rules, which provide that cost shall follow the event. The third respondent was also in support of the trial court's award of costs, submitting that Section 84 mandates the trial court to award costs which automatically follow the event. He went further to submit that Rule 36 of the Election Petition Rules 2017 empowers the election court to make an order specifying the amount of cost payable. As such, the appellant's contention that costs should be left to the taxing master to determine the quantum has no legal basis. In Albert Hassan Abdallah versus INBC and 3 others case, this court observed that there is no reason to depart from the general principle that costs follow the event. The court, however, observed further that costs should not be used as a scarecrow to chase away deserving litigants who have grievances from seeking justice or to impede access to justice. The court awarded costs for the proceedings in the High Court, which the High Court had not awarded. Also in Philip Charo Kaloki, this court, in interfering with the cost awarded by the High Court in a parliamentary election, held the view that total cost of 4 million in a parliamentary election was excessive. Accordingly, the award made by the trial court was reduced and capped at 2 million. In the High Court, to be paid by the appellant equally to the respondent. The cost of the appeal was capped at 500,000 to be paid equally by the appellant to the respondent. Similarly, the case of Owino Paul Ogiri Babu versus Francis Wambogo, this court held that as costs follow the event, the appellant is awarded costs of the petition in the High Court as against the first respondent, capped at 3 million. The appellant is also awarded cost of this appeal, capped at 1 million. So was the case of Wavinya Ndeti and Peter Madhuki. From the foregoing, it becomes apparent that cost of 8 million in the present case are simply astronomical. Whereas costs are at the discretion of the court, our interference with the order on costs in this appeal is inevitable. The first conclusions and final orders. The first preamble by the appellant is that the court declares Section 83 of the Election Act null and void as it is inconsistent with Articles 10, 38, 47, and 86 of the Constitution. We find this was an issue that sprang from the bruise. There were no deliberations before the High Court, and the Court of Appeal cannot entertain or pronounce itself on an issue that is raised on appeal. We have no doubt that the issue is a serious one that ought to be canvassed fully and not be brought in the Court of Appeal without the opinion of the High Court. The High Court, as the first port of call in interpreting the Constitution, ought to have been accorded the opportunity to pronounce itself on the issue. In the final analysis, we make the following orders. A, the appellant's appeal fails and is hereby dismissed, and the judgment of the High Court, dated 28 February 2018, is hereby upheld. The appellant shall bear the costs of the third respondent incurred before the election court to be taxed, but not to exceed 1.5 million. The appellant shall bear the costs of the third respondent in this appeal to be taxed and not to exceed 500,000. In view of the first and second respondents' conduct in the challenge elections, which left a lot to be desired and which necessitated the filing of this election petition, giving rise to this appeal, we are inclined to agree with counsel for the appellant that they should not be rewarded with an award for costs of any amount. The order we make is that they are not entitled to any cost. These are our orders.
Another victory for a sitting member of parliament within the same Court of Appeal after the judge there upheld the election of Changamwe member of parliament Omar Mwinyi, and those are the celebrations happening, his supporters there. And of course, she has ordered the petitioner to bear the costs, something that, of course, many have been reacting to. Just last week, the person who was challenging the election of Alfred Kateri, if you do remember, began an online campaign to help him raise funds to meet the costs of the case. What do you think of that?
I think let us not make, our courts to be too expensive for the petitioners, to look like...
Some say that it is raising the bar to her, that before, you go to challenge an election, for instance, that you must actually ensure that your facts are, in place.
No, it's a competition. This is politics.
Yeah.
It's a competition. So you cannot be competing at the same time collecting evidence. We need to understand that. So therefore, if we put it like anytime we are scaring these people not actually to go to court when you have some valid reasons that can make, the case to be nullified. So therefore, we need not to make it look like it's too commercial that people will be fearing actually challenging the victory of even those who have stolen the elections.
And an ongoing trend, if you've noticed, Carl, is that the Court of Appeal has over the time upheld, in quite a number of instances that we've seen here, upheld the decision of the High Court. Perhaps a message here that they're really working together?
Yeah, courts always don't love to contradict themselves. Okay. Because writing, actually, the verdict is not always easy to contradict, because first of all, you have to contradict the statements from the High Court to justify what you are putting on a black and white. And so therefore, that is why in most cases, they will always follow the trend. The High Court, the Court of Appeal, and then the Supreme Court, it will be like one statement to each and every given step. So in rare cases, we do find that they will contradict one another.
Okay, and of course this comes in line with what we were simply discussing, now that still we're on matters court. With half its budget, do you think the Chief Justice David Maraga will be able to meet his agenda? And I'm talking about reforms within the sector. He has been at the forefront. In fact, he, a couple of weeks ago, said that his arm of government is really working with the executive on the war on graft. Do you think this might perhaps hinder that kind of goodwill he portrayed?
Seriously, I think the sufferer here is the common man.
Okay.
Because, you know, courts are serving the common man, not even the richest per se. So, in other words...
But then he did not say that justice will not be served. He only said that perhaps the process will be delayed.
Sure, because now, if a case that is supposed to be taking 3 months will take 3 years, you know, there is no essence of that case. Yeah. So, I think we need actually to revise. We need to revise. Either they can do a memo, okay? And then we talk of how we can have some supplementary budget over to do with the judiciary, because if we leave it this way, I think we are headed for a big mess. Not only that, the judiciary can again, they can exercise their constitutional powers through the Article 249 sub-Article 3, that if the provisions or maybe the parliament has actually passed some given, laws or maybe bills or within commissions or independent bodies that are not in line, then they can challenge that. Or rather, in other words, they can also even call, because if you don't create crisis within these given bodies, they will never listen to you. So if they use that article again, they can can we dissolve the parliament so that they can listen to them? Or other words, they can also go through the Article 261, sub-Article 1, I think, whereby now we talk of the budget allocation. It needs to be adequate for each and every given commission and also the independent bodies. So if that was not in satisfactorily did not satisfy their demand and in line in terms of their budget, then they also have a way to challenge that. Yeah. But basically, I don't know where did we draw the facts in terms of why did we challenge?
Some have actually argued that, you know, perhaps this might not be in the support of the Speaker, Justice Muturi, who is actually a qualified magistrate. What do you think?
Yeah, because we could have been having compelling reasons as to why. Because one, I think the reasons why as to a budget can be cut. One, we can be talking of what we call the wastefulness. In that maybe there was a lot of, there was much money that was given to a given department, but then it was not utilized appropriately, and therefore they need to cut it down. Or we can talk of the corruption, whereby maybe the funds that were allocated for those given departments or maybe entities were not used well, and so therefore there is need for us to cut it because there's a lot of waste. And then now the efficiency comes in, whereby the service delivery that was to be effected within those given period of time with the allocation of the funds didn't actually match the value for the money, and said that therefore that could have actually ignited the fact of cutting the fund. But if those reasons were not actually captured, then there was no reason as to why they could have actually cut the budget.
Okay, and we're reacting to the fact that the sections of members of parliament have opted to reduce the funding of the judiciary. This coming just a time when the Court of Appeal in Mombasa has upheld the election of Changamwe Member of Parliament Omar Mwinyi. Now, like I told you earlier, our very own political reporter, Anders Sihachi, had just had a chat with Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen. We had tried to listen in earlier, but we couldn't. But this is an excerpt of that particular interview. Amongst other things, of course, he spoke about the Mao eviction process. Let's listen in.
We met on Tuesday evening to update our members on the happenings in Mao. And we agreed in that meeting that we will continue standing firm to voice the concerns of innocent Kenyans who are being brutalized in the Narok South, and to ensure that the 4,000 children who are out of school go back to school, and ensure that the 10 schools are open. That position is a firm position of all the leaders from the Rift Valley. And we appreciate government commitment now to deal with the issue, and there is great progress so far because the evictions were halted. We heard yesterday that County Commissioner said the evictions would resume in some ranches. I hope he didn't mean in the areas that innocent citizens are suffering and which is below the cut line that was created by government. Let it be known that even though we are in Jubilee, we are useful to Jubilee by raising issues that concern our voters. And when we raise those issues, we are not raising as an opposition, or we are not raising as people who are outside Jubilee. We are raising as patriotic supporters of Jubilee who want to help our government and our party to make the right decision.
Reiterating his stance that he isn't against the government's position to continue the eviction process, but instead he is raising concerns of the people he represents.
Protecting Mao is that one is in the best interest of Kenyans.
Actually, very sorry to interrupt you, Carl. I'll come back to you. I understand that Omar Mwinyi, whose election as Changamwe Member of Parliament has been upheld, is addressing the media right now.
Ya kwamba hata siku ya leo hii kesi ikarudiwa tutamshinda. Kesi hii hata akipeleka katika Supreme Court tutamshinda. Hata kesi hii ikaregeshwa tena kwa wananchi tutamshinda. Kwa hivyo hakuna mahali pa kukimbilia katika Changamwe. Changamwe ni
of appeal to uphold his election is Changamwe Member of Parliament Omar Mwinyi, and of course we shall keep you up to speed on that. In the meantime, we're just reacting to sentiments by Elgeyo Senator Kipchumba Murkomen, who just spoke to Anders Yachi in the morning. He has reiterated that he's not against the government's position in terms of the Mao eviction process, but instead he is representing the outcry of the people there who are complaining about the manner in which the government is carrying out this exercise. Now, Carl, your earlier statement seems to be against what Murkomen here says, that in an event like this, perhaps using force is almost inevitable, is what you said. Do you still stand with that?
It's appropriate because there is no language you will speak that everybody will understand, and that is why now they have resorted to the force. Protecting Mao is in the best interest of every Kenyan. And I think there is no Kenyan, whether Mao eviction victims, included. Now, we must talk of this, that let us not be fooled by the sentiments of the likes of Murkomen and company, that they are speaking the truth. That is not there. The reality is we need to understand that when you want to protect an area, you will not be pleasing people, but you will have to stand by the truth. And the truth is people have encroached the water tower. And how are we going to talk about it, and how are we going to conserve it? We need now to deal with this one-on-one. And dealing with it means that, can they actually solve this problem once and for all? And I think his statements are very petty and discordant because it looks like a proselytism in more or less a way of it's targeting. When you talk of it's targeting one group of the voters, then it's like you're fanning some ethnic tensions within the bordering communities, which of course is not the case. So my humble prayer is that I think that this will not happen, because if that will happen, then the Murkomen masters and the acolytes, they will have to be held responsible about
What about the political connotation about this? And before you even answer that, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, breaking news right now is that the Court of Appeal in Kisumu has upheld the election of John Nyangarama as the county governor for Nyamira. Now, we are yet to know the fate of his counterpart in Kisii County, where the very same Court of Appeal will actually rule whether to uphold the election of Kisii Governor James Ongwae. So we shall keep you up to speed on that. The political connotation to this, and perhaps some say within every election cycle, Mao kind of always features. And why has this been the case over the time?
Because the leaders have been taking advantage over their electorates. Somebody like Murkomen, if he's not contained, cultured and managed, is going to cause the deputy president a big mess.
In what sense?
Because his sentiments and what we call now what he is, are two different things. You cannot match him with what comes out of his mouth and what you see in him. So it is high time now he understands that it's not just a matter of talking. Because let me tell you, don't issue threats to your boss if you cannot carry them out. And if you do that, that would mean that the mission you started, you cannot complete. And that is the day you will be crushed.
And of course, we were reacting to sentiments earlier on by Elgeyo Senator Kipchumba Murkomen says that, he is in support of the government process of eviction of people within the Mau, targeting about 40,000 people in its second phase. He, however, does not approve the manner in which this particular exercise has been carried out. And of course, we have been at least taking some of your feedback. I shall sample within this live broadcast. And it seems as though, Carl, this Mau issue is sort of bringing two sides within the Jubilee Party. Why is this the case? Specifically, leaders from, the central region and those of the Rift Valley region.
Yeah, if, the Mau, if you look at the Mau thing from 2008, going forward, okay? That was actually what caused the former Prime Minister its vote in Rift Valley. And so therefore, it was that big issue. So, if today again that comes out to be another issue, because let us not use Mau as a political scorecard, whereby each and every person always believe that it's a score point, that if we hit on, then it's a way for you actually to thrive in Rift Valley. So it is high time, I think, again, if these things is not, handled with a lot of sobriety, okay, then this thing is going to cause us another political score point towards the 2022 elections. So we need to tread very careful about with this Mau issue.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to take you through some of the top stories that we have been following right now, the Court of Appeal, like I mentioned to you, a very busy day within the corridors of justice, has actually upheld the election of John Nyangarama as the governor of Nyamira County. So we shall keep you up to speed about other stories that we are still following. The Daily Brief is taking a short commercial break. We'll be right back.